Good evening. I wanted to walk through here my expense tracker program using JavaScript, Node.js, and SQLite, which is how I create my SQL databases here. So here, just in the beginning, that's setting up SQLite, the database, and then read line, just so we can get user input. So here's the welcome message. Here's the menu function that's run here, and we'll get to that later. And this db.run is basically saying if the table doesn't exist, which is this expenses.db over here, if that doesn't exist, create it, create the database. And the three columns are going to be the ID column, which is basically is going to number the expenses. It's an integer, and then primary key basically automatically gets added every time a new expense is added, and it will count up for you. Description, what is the expense, text, and the amount, how much is it, which is a real number there. And so we have 6 different functions here. I'll show you this first. Just the display menu is going to list. These are their 5 options and give the user the option to put in the corresponding number or 6 if they want to leave the program. And then it will also catch the error if they input a number that isn't, well, if they don't input a number or if it's not one of the 6, which you'll see this here. Okay. So, whoops, there we go. The add expense is the first one. It's going to ask the user to input the description. And then this input here is converted into a float. And it's tested here. If it's not a number, it's going to have them try again. And if it is a number, it's going to insert into the expenses database with the description and the amount right there. And then it will return to the menu. The view expenses one is pretty simple. It's going to select from the expenses and get all the rows. If it's an error, like if there's no rows, or some other thing where it can't access it, it's going to give the option to go back to the menu. And then for each row, it's going to organize it in a good fashion here with the ID number, the description, and the amount. And then we'll have them go back to the menu. The remove expense, this one does the same thing. They're all going to start here with just displaying the different expenses in the database. And then it's going to say what's the ID of the one you'd like to remove. It's going to delete it. If it gives an error, it's going to say what the message is, whatever the error message is. This dot changes here basically mean it's going to scan all the IDs, and if it finds one that corresponds to a certain expense, that if it finds the ID they inputted and it's in the database, the changes is going to be 1, is my understanding. And if there's nothing, that means it's not found. So the expenses, no expenses found. Else, we're done. It goes back to the menu. Modify expense does the same thing. It's going to start with listing all the expenses in there. And then once it finds, so it says, what's the ID of the expense? What's the updated description, updated amount? Basically, and I'll show you here when I run the program, is going to allow them to put in a different description. Maybe they spent $50 on food, but it was actually an insurance bill. So it lets them go back, change what it was for, change the amount if needed, etc. Then same thing will catch errors. Now the last one here is a simple summary. This is where I use my aggregate functions, both sum and count. Sum is going to get all of the expense amounts and sum them here with the amount. And then count is going to count all the IDs, which is basically going to count all of the entries in the database. So I'll show you this all together here. I'll pull this up. It says welcome. You can add, expense, view, remove, modify, summarize, or exit. We're going to add an expense. We're going to say this was car insurance. What was the amount? We'll say $50. Okay, we're back there to the menu. We're gonna add another one. Let's say this one is for out $25, and we'll do one more. Let's say this was utilities. We'll say we spend 100. Okay. So once we have those three in there, we're gonna click view, and you'll see that it's gonna show us here 1, 2, and 3. Car insurance for 50, eating out for 25, utilities for 100. Enter to continue. And so now what we'll do, we'll modify one here. What is the ID? Let's say we wanted to correct our eating out. Maybe we spent 35 instead of 25. So I'll put in the number 2 here. Update description, we're good. We're going to keep it as eating out. And then what is the updated amount? 35, right? So when we go back and review our expenses, now it shows 35 here, right? And it would do the same thing if we wanted to go in there and say, maybe we didn't eat out. That was just simply groceries. We still only spent 35 though. That's going to show up there. Okay. Now, if we wanted to summarize the expenses, we could do that. Number 5 here. 3 expenses so far. That's correct. Total amount is 185. So that 50, 35, and 100 altogether. Just showing how much we spent so far. I haven't added in I guess how much we spent this month, but this is so far. And then the last one here is the remove expense. So press 3 here. What is the ID? Let's say we didn't spend utilities, or we're going to get rid of that one for whatever reason. Okay, let's look. So utilities gone. Then we'll remove car insurance as well. So we'll do number 1 there. So it's just left with groceries. And to be honest, with this being the last one left, it's 2. It actually would be a pretty good idea to have it update and be number 1. Actually, I'm curious if I add another expense. Let's say this one is shoes, spent $50. Okay, so it picks up from there instead of going back down to 1. Interesting. Well, cool. I'll need to add that in then. I'll be curious. Anyways, last thing here, exit the program, and it says thanks. So this is what I have so far. The cool thing that I like about this is with the expenses, it's going to keep what you have in there. It's in such a weird format where it knows how to read it, but it's not just normal text. And so basically the next time the user gets on the program, right, we were left with just groceries there. If we were to open up the program, view expenses, we're still going to have, I had both. We're still going to have these here. So basically it doesn't reset every time the user opens the program. It's going to be, every time they load it up, it's going to be there. So this is my program. Thanks for watching. And yeah, have a good night.